The Pharaoh's casting a shadow? Why are we listening to you, bro? I mean, he's probably smart. That's the thing. It's you, though. Father, right? Things are pretty much along the same lines with the laws, but since it was written later, chapter 6 of Aristotle, it would be better to take a little look at the form of government there as well. For Socrates has determined quite a small number of things in the Republic about the communal arrangement with women and children, how that ought to be done, and about property and the way the Constitution is ordered. For he divides the mass of the population into two parts. One group consisting of farmers, and the other the part that defends the city. And out of the latter comes the part of the deliberates, and has authority over it. As for whether the farmers and craftsmen should take part in no ruling functions, at all or in some, and whether they should to bear arms and have a share in fighting wars or not, Socrates was determining nothing on these matters, although he does suppose the women ought to have a share in fighting wars, and take part in the same education as the guardians. As far as the rest is concerned, he has filled the discussion with extraneous matters, and with detail about what sort of education the guardians ought to get. But in the laws, the greatest part of deals precisely with laws, while it says few things about the form of government, and despite wanting to make this have more in common with cities, it by little brings it back around toward the other government. For outside of the communal arrangement of women and property, he gives both forms of government the same provisions in other respects. They are the same as far as education is concerned, and living a life free of necessary tasks and likewise as common meals, except that this dialogue says there ought to be common meals for women too. Also the one has 1,000 people bearing arms, and the other 5,000. Now while all Socrates' discourses have something extraordinary about them, something elegant that breaks fresh ground and all in spirit of inquiry, it is perhaps difficult to handle all subjects beautifully, since even in the case of the number just mentioned, one ought not to let pass unnoticed the fact that it would require a territory as big as that of Babylon or some other place of boundless extent from which they would feed 5,000 men who do no work, as well as another throng just as big of a woman and attendants surrounding them. And one ought to make a hypothetical proposals however one wishes, but surely none that are impossible. It is said that the lawgiver ought to set down laws with an eye on two things, the territory and the people. But it would also be a beautiful thing to add a consideration of the neighboring regions. First of all, if the city has to live like a city and not in isolation, since for war it will have to use not only such arms as are useful in its own territory, but in the places outside it as well. But if one does not adopt such a way of living, either as a private person or in the common life of the city, it is still no less necessary to inspire fear in enemies, and not just in those who invade their territory, but also when they go outside it. And one ought to look at the amount of property as well, whether it might be better to determine this differently in some clearer manner, for he says it ought to be enough to live moderately, as if one were to say enough to live well, since that is more general. Yet it is possible to live moderately, but wretchedly, and a better limit would be with moderation and generosity. For apart from that one, luxuriousness could result, and drudgery apart from the other. Since these are the only states of character worthy of choice that have to do with the use of wealth, there is no such thing as using wealth gently or courageously, for example, but there is such a thing as using it moderately and generously, so it is necessary for these states of character to apply to it as well. And it is also absurd for something that makes property equal to make no provision regarding the multitude of citizens, but to leave the production of children alone as something that would be sufficiently balanced out at the same amount, no matter how many are born, by cases of childlessness, since it seems also to turn out that way now with cities. But the degree of precision this matter needs is not the same in this case as in those. For as things are, no one does without because of the dividing up of estates among whatever number they are. But in this case, where estates are indivisible, excess children would necessarily get nothing, whatever greater or lesser number of them there may be. One might suppose that one ought to limit the production of children rather than wealth, so that no more than a certain number are born, setting this number with an eye on the chances that some of those born would turn out to die, and on childlessness on the part of others, but leaving it alone, as is done in most cities, would necessarily become responsible for poverty among the citizens, and poverty brings in action and crime. Phaedon of Corinth, who was one of the most ancient lawgivers, thought that even of all the portion of land originally unequal in size, the households ought to remain constant and equal to the number of citizens. But things are the opposite in these laws. But the way we believe things could be done better in these matters needs to be spoken of later. And concerning the rulers, how they are going to be different from those who ruled is also left incomplete in these laws. It says it ought to be the same way the warp comes from different wool than the wolf does, so that it is relation the rulers ought to have to those who are ruled. Also, since it permits someone's entire wealth to become up to 5 times greater, why should this not be permitted up to some limit in the case of land?
Then we'll never know.
And one ought to consider whether the division of homesteads might not be advantageous to household management, for it allots 2 homesteads to each property owner, broken up in separate places, but it is difficult to maintain 2 households. The way the whole is organized is meant to be neither a democracy nor an oligarchy, but a middle ground between them, which people call constitutional rule.
We'll never
For the
know.
government consists of those who bear arms.
I did good, thanks.
Now, if it sets this up as having the most in common with cities compared to the rest of the forms of government, perhaps it has spoken beautifully, but not so beautifully if it sets it up as the next best form of government after the first ranked one. For one would probably give higher praise to of the Spartans, or even to one more aristocratic than that. Accordingly, some people say that the best form of government is made up of a mixture of all the forms, and they praise that of the Spartans for that reason. For some claim it is made up of oligarchy, monarchy, and democracy, calling the office of king monarchy and that of the elders oligarchy, while saying it is democratically ruled by virtue of the office of the ephors, since the ephors come from the general populace, but others say the office of the ephors is a tyranny, but the city is democratically ruled by virtue of the common meals and the rest of their everyday life. But in these laws it is said that the best form of government ought to be put together out of democracy and tyranny, which one ought not to take as forms of government at all, or else take as the worst of all. Those who mix in more forms speak better, since the resulting form of government will be better when it is compounded out of more elements. And in that next place, it obviously has nothing monarchical at all about it, but is oligarchic and democratic, though it tends to lean more toward oligarchy. This is clear from the way those who rule are appointed. The practice of drawing lots from among a chosen group is common to both forms, but the fact that the wealthier people are required to be in the assembly appoint the rulers by their votes and do anything else that is the job of citizens, while the others are relieved of those duties. That is oligarchic and amounts to an effort to have more of the rulers come from among the wealthy and the highest rulers from the highest property classes. It also makes the choosing of the council oligarchic, for everyone is required to take part in the choice, but to choose from among the first property class, and then an equal number again from the second class. Then they choose from the third, except that not everyone from the third or fourth class was required to vote, and only those from the first and second class was required to choose from among those in the fourth class. Then from among these it says they need to bring out an equal number from each class, so it will be the case that more candidates and better ones will be chosen by those from the highest property classes, since some of those in general populace will not be voting because it is not required. That such a form of government ought not to be organized out of democracy and monarchy, it also clear from these considerations, as well as from others that will be spoken of later. Whenever the investigation applies to that sort of government, and on the matter of choosing rulers, having them chosen from among a chosen group also has a danger. For if some people want to join together, even if there is only a moderate number, choices will always be made as they wish. So this is the way things are in regard to the form of government in the laws. Thank you for Captain Obvious. You know, that's kind of how I feel about it.
Your team about to score. Hail, Guardian.
To John Day Nafil. Actually, that's wrong. Hold on. The classification of humans. Here we go. Back to Gramps here. Oh, Gramps. Whoever amongst humans makes his living protecting cattle, knowing it thus, Vasita he is a farmer and not a Brahmin. Whoever amongst humans lives by craft of a certain kind, know it thus, Vasita he is a craftsman and not a Brahmin.
Some dumb Hail Mary.
Whoever amongst humans makes his livelihood through busyness, know it thus, Vasita he is a trader and not a Brahmin. Whoever amongst humans lives by way of service to others, know it thus, Vasita he is a servant and not a Brahmin. Whoever amongst humans makes his livelihood through thievery, know it thus, Vasita he is a robber and not a Brahmin. Whoever amongst humans makes his livelihood as an archer, know it thus, Vasita he is a soldier and not a Brahmin. Whoever amongst humans makes his livelihood by advising, know it thus, Vasita he is a cleric and not a Brahmin. Whoever amongst humans lives off a village or a kingdom, know it thus, Vasita he is a monarch and not a Brahmin. The true Brahmin. I do not call one a Brahmin because of being born from a certain womb, that one is not one who says bro. If he is attached, having nothing unattached, then one I say is a Brahmin. Whoever has cut off all that fetters surely does not tremble, surmounting attachments detached, then one I say is a Brahmin. Whoever has cut off the thong, the strap, the rope, together with the bridle, who has thrown off the obstacle and is awakened, that one I say is a Brahmin. Whoever being pure forbears with punishment, bondage, abuse, having the strength of endurance, having the strength of armaments, that one I say is a Brahmin. Whoever has controlled the mind, dutiful, virtuous, taint-free, well-trained, and in his last body, that one I say is a Brahmin. Like water on the lotus leaf, like a mustard seed on a needle, not smeared by sensual desires, that one I say is a Brahmin. Whoever knows here and now the destruction of his suffering, putting down the burden detached, the one I say is a Brahmin. The deeply wise, sagacious one, skilled in what is path and not path,
English.
who has reached the ultimate good,
Because the
the one I
picture
say is
comes
a Brahmin.
first.
Whoever doesn't mix with the householders or with the houseless, wandering homeless with few desires, that one I say is a Brahmin. Whoever has laid down the stick used against fearful and fearless beings, who neither hurts nor kills, that one I say is a Brahmin.
Your team.
Being friendly with the hostile, calm amongst those holding weapons, not attached
So these
amongst those
what they're
attached, that
Yo,
one I say is a
Dante.
Brahmin.
Dante, right here.
For whoever has thrown aside passion, hatred, conceit, anger, like mustard seed on a needle, that one I say is a Brahmin. Whoever speaks a word of truth that is informed and is not coarse, through which no one will be angry, that one I say is a Brahmin. Whoever here does not take what is not given, long, short, small, large, attractive, or unattractive, that one I say is a Brahmin. For the one who has no longings in this world or in the next world, being without longings, detachment, that one I say is a Brahmin.
Nearing victory.
For the one who has no desires, who through knowledge is without doubt, who is immersed in the deathless, that one I say is a Brahmin. Whoever here has overcome clean to merit, demerit, who is griefless, dustless, and pure, and the one I say is a Brahmin. Whoever just like the whoever just like the moon is stainless, pure, clear, undisturbed, and has destroyed joy in existence, that one I say is a Brahmin. Whoever has crossed the hard path through births and deaths and delusion, the meditator crossed over the one who is lust-free, doubt-free, who is unattached and cooled down, that one I say is a Brahmin. Whoever would wander homeless, giving up all his craving, ending craving in existence, that one I say is a Brahmin. Abandoning the human yoke, overcoming the divine yoke, being unattached to all yokes, that one I say is a Brahmin. Abandoning delight and hate, cooled off and free from all cleaving, a hero who vanquished the world, that one I say is a Brahmin. Whoever I knows in every way the passing rebirth of beings, unattached, fortunate, awake, that one I say is a Brahmin. For the one whose destiny is unknown to gods, Gandhabas, men, pollutant free, and Arahat, that one I say is a Brahmin. For whom there is nothing in the past, the future, or the present, having nothing and unattached, that one I say is a Brahmin. A leader, noble, heroic, a great seer, victorious, lust-free, and cleansed and awakened, that one I say is a Brahmin. Whoever knows their former lives, sees heaven and the underworld, and the attained birth's destruction, that one I say is a Brahmin. Summary of the teaching. These designations in the world have been made about name and clan, arisen through common consent. They have been made both here and there. Lying latent for a long time, this false view of the ignorant, indeed only the ignorant, say one is a Brahmin by birth. One is not a Brahmin by birth, nor by birth is one not a Brahmin. By deeds one is a Brahmin here, by deeds one is not a Brahmin. It's by deeds one is a farmer, and by deeds one is a craftsman, and by deeds one is a trader, and by deeds one is a servant. And by deeds one is a robber, and by deeds one is a soldier, and by deeds one is a cleric, and by deeds one is a monarch.
Neutral bomb.
Thus the wise, seeing this deed as it really is, seeing conditional origination, are skilled in deeds and results. By deeds the world goes around, by deeds this generation goes around there. Beings are bound fast by deeds, as chariots roll on their linchpins. Through austerity, through celibacy, restraint and control,
That's
through these one
awkward.
is a Brahmin. This here is the Brahmin Supreme. Endowed with the three knowledges, peaceful and with rebirth destroyed, I know thus, Vasita, that one is Brahma Saka to those who know. The conclusion. The con artist. When this was said, the students Vasita and Bharadvaja said that this to the fortunate one. Excellent, dear Gautama. Excellent, dear Gautama. Just as, dear Gautama, one might set upright what has been overturned, or open up what has been closed, or show a path to one who is lost, or carry an oil lamp into the darkness, thinking. Those with vision will see forms, just so has the Dhamma been explained by the dear Gautama in countless ways. We go to the dear Gautama for refuge, and to the Dhamma, and to the community of monks. Please bear it in mind, dear Gautama, that we are lay followers who have gone for refuge from today forward for as long as we have the breath of life. I thank you.
Yeah, they think I'm arguing. I am not.
Alright, and we're back. Canto 22. I don't know if that's where I'm at. I think it is. Yep, Canto 22. That's awkward. Ascent to the sixth ledge, discourse of Statius and Virgil. Entrance to the ledge, the gluttonous, the mystic tree. Examples of temperance. Already was the angel left behind us, the angel who had turned us to the sixth round, having erased a stroke from my face, and he had said to us that those who have their desire set on justice are beady, and his words ended with situant, without the rest. And I more light than through the other passes was going on so, and that without any labor I was following upward with the swift spirits. When Virgil began, love kindled by virtue always kindles another, provided that its flame appear outwardly. Wherefore from the hour when amid us juvenile descended into the limbo of hell, and made known to me thy affection, my own good will toward thee was such that more never bound one to an unseen person, so that their stairs will now seem short to me. But tell me, and as a friend pardon me, if too great confidence let loose my rein, and as a friend now talk with me.
Oddball.
How avarice could find a place within thy breast, amid wisdom so great as that wherewith through thy diligence thou wast filled. These words first moved Statius a little to smiling. Then he replied, every word of thine is a dear sign to me of love. Truly, oftentimes things have such appearance that they gave false material for suspicion, because the true reasons lie hid. That question assures me, if I believe, perhaps because of that circle where I was, that I was avaricious in the other life. Know then avarice was too far removed from me, and this want of measure thousands of courses of the moon have punished. And had it not been that I set right my care, when I understood the passage where thou dost exclaim, as if indignant with human nature, O cursed hunger of gold, to what dost thou not impel the appetite of mortals? I, rowing, should share the dismal jousts. Then I perceived that the hands could spread their wings too much in spinning, and I repented as well of that as of my other sins.
Enemy has the ball.
How many shall rise with cropped hair through ignorance, which during life and in the last hours prevents repentance for the sin? And know that the vice which rebukes any sign with direct opposition, together with it here dries up its verdure. Wherefore if to purify myself, I have been among the people who lament their avarice, because of its contrary this has befallen me. Now when thou wast singing, the cruel strife of the twofold affliction of Jocasta, said the singer of the bucolic songs, it does not appear from that which Clio touches, with thee there, that the faith without which good works suffice not, had yet made thee faithful.
Enemy has the ball.
If this be so, what sun or what candles disperse thy darkness, so that thou didst thereafter set thyself behind the fisherman?
Ball drop.
And he to him, thou first directedst me towards Parnassus, to drink in its root, Gratz, and then on the way to God thou enlightenest me. Thou didst like him who goes by night and carries the light behind him, and helps not himself, but makes the persons following him wise when thou sets. The ages are renewed, justice returns in a primeval time of man, and a new progeny descends from heaven. Though thee I became a poet, though thee a Christian, but in order that thou mayst better see that which I sketch, I will stretch out my hand to
I'll
color
show
it.
you mercy right now.
Already was the whole world teeming with the true belief, sown by the messengers of the eternal realm, and these words of thine touched upon just now here were in harmony with the new preachers.
I will show you mercy.
Wherefore I adapted the practice of visiting them. They came to me, then appearing so holy, that when the mission persecuted them, not without my tears were their lamenting. As so long as I remained on earth, I succored them, and their upright customs made me scorn all their sects. And before I had led the Greeks in the rivers of Thebes in my birth, I received baptism, but only fear I was a secret Christian, for a long while making show of paganism. And this lukewarmness made me circle round in fourth circle, longer than to the 4th century. Thou therefore that didst lift for me the covering that was hiding from me such great good as I say, while we have remainder of accent, tell me there is our ancient Teres, Sicilius, Platus, and Varro. If thou knowest it, tell me if they are damned, and what region. They had Perseus, and I, and many others, replied my leader. Are with that Greek whom the Muses suckled more than any other ever, in the first girdle of the blind prison? Oftentimes we discourse of the mountain that hath our mercies always with itself. Euripides is there with us, and Antiphon, Simonides, Agathon, and many other Greeks who of old adorned their brows with laurel. There of thine own people are seen Antigone, Diophile, and Argia, and Ismene, sad even as she was. There she is even who showed Langia. There is the daughter of Tiresias, and Thetis, and Demamia with her sisters. Now both the poets became silent once more, intent on looking around, free from the ascent and from the walls. And 4 of the handmaids of the day were now remaining behind, and the 5th was at the pole, directing still upward its burning thorn, when my leader, I think that it behoved us to turn our right shoulders to the outer edge, circling the mount as we are wont to do. Thus usage was there our guide, and when we took the way was less doubt because of the ascent of that worthy soul. They were going on in front, and I solitary behind, and I was listening to their speech, which gave me understanding and imposing. But soon the pleasant discourse was interrupted by a tree which we found in the mid-road, with apples sweet and pleasant to the smell. And as a fir tree tapers upward from branch to branch, so generally did that I think in order that no one may go up.
Buddy.
On the side of which our way was closed, the clear water fell from the high rock and spread itself over the leaves above. The 2 poets approached the tree, and a voice from within the leaves cried, Of this food ye shall have want. Then it said, Mary thought more how the wedding should be honorable and complete than of her mouth, which answers now for you. And the ancient Roman women were content with water for the drink, and Daniel despised food and gained wisdom. The primal age which is beautiful as gold, with hunger made a corn, savor, and with thirst every stimulant nectar. Honey and locusts were the viands, and nourished the Baptist in the desert, wherefore he is in glory, and so great as by the gospel is revealed to you. That's kind of awkward. Canto 23. 6 ledge, the gluttonous, Floris Donati, Nella, rebuke of the woman of Florence. While I was fixing my eyes upon the green leafage, just as he who wastes his life following the little bird is wont to do, my more than father said to me, Son, come on now, for the time that is assigned to us must be parceled out more usefully. I turned my face, and no less quickly my step after the sages, who were speaking so that they made the going of no cost to me. And lo, a lament and song were heard, labia mia, domain, in such fashion that it gave birth to delight and pain. O sweet father, what is that which I hear? I began, and he, shades which go perhaps loosing the knot of the dead.
Yeah.
Even as do pilgrims wrapped in thought, who ever taken on the road unknown folk turn themselves to them, and stay not. So behind us, moving more quickly, coming up and passing by, a crowd of souls, silent and devout, gazed at us.
Yeah, gun pointed at the sun at
Each
this
was
point.
dark and hollow in the
I'm kidding
eyes,
with
pallid in the face, and so wasted that the skin took its shape from the bones. I do not think that Ariston was so dried up to utter rhyme by hunger, when he had most fear of it. I said to myself in thought, behold the people who lost Jerusalem, when Mary struck her beak into her son. The sockets of their eyes seemed rings without gems. Whoso in the face of men reads Omo, would surely there have recognized the M. Who would believe that the scent of an apple, begetting longing, and that of water, could have such mastery if he knew not how?
Ball dropped. Enemy has the ball.
I was now wondering what so famished them, the cause of their meagerness, and of their wretched husks not yet being manifest. And lo, from the depths of its head a shade turned his eyes on me, and looked fixedly, then cried out loudly,
Ball dropped.
"What grace to me is
Enemy
this?
has the ball.
Never should I have recognized him
Hey,
by
cat.
his face.
Cat purr.
But in his voice,
Get that
was
off. I'm not arguing
disclosed to me,
at all.
which is aspect
you,
in
though.
itself had suppressed.
Go ahead and strip
This
that
spark
license.
rekindled in me all my knowledge
Perfect.
of the altered visage,
Think I'm
and I
joking, it
recognized
ain't.
the face of Foresee. Ah, strive not with the dry scab that discolors my skin, he prayed, nor with my lack of flesh, but tell me the truth about thyself, and who are these two souls who yonder make an escort for thee?
No, there is no me with
Stay
you
not
there.
thou from speaking to me. Thy face, which once I wed for dead, now gives me for weeping no less a grief. Replied I, seeing it is so disfigured. Therefore tell me, for God's sake, what so despoils you. Make me not speak while I am marveling. For ill can he speak who is full of another wish. And he to me, from the eternal counsel falls a power into the water and into the plant, now left behind, whereby I become so thin. All this folk who sing weeping because of following their appetite beyond measure, here in hunger and in thirst make themselves holy again. The odor which issues from the apple and from the spray that spreads over the verdure kindles in us desire to eat and drink. And not once only as we circle this floor as our pain renewed, I say pain and ought to say solace, for that will leads us to the tree which led Christ gladly to say, Eli, when with his blood he delivered us. And I to him, Foresee, from that day on which thou didst change world to a better life, up to this time, 5 years have I not rolled round. If the power of sinning further had endured in thee, ere the hour supervened of the good grief that to God renewed us, how hast thou come up there? I thought to find thee still down there below, but where time is made good by time. And he to me, my Nella with her bursting tears has brought me thus quickly to drink of the sweet wormwood of these torments. With her devout prayers and with sighs has she drawn me from the shore where one awaits, and has delivered me from the other circles. So much the more dear and more beloved of God is my little widow, whom I loved so much, as she is the more solitary in good works. For the Barbagia of Sardinia is far more modest in its woman than the Barbagia where I left her. O sweet brother, what wouldest thou that I say? A future time is already in my sight, to which thou
None of your business.
this hour will not be very old, and which from the pulpit shall be forbidden to the brazen-faced dames of Florence to go display in the bosom with the paps. What barbarian, what Saracen woman were there ever who required either spiritual or other discipline to make them go covered? But if the shameless one were aware of that which the swift heaven is preparing for them, already would they have their mouths open for howling. For if foresight have deceived me not, they will be sad ere he who is now consoled with the lullaby covers his cheeks with hair. Ah, brother, now no longer conceal thyself from me. Thou seest that not only I, but all these people are gazing there where thou dost veil the sun. Whereon I to him, if thou bring back to mind what thou wast with me, and what I was with thee, the present remembrance will be grievous still. From that life he goes before me, turned me the other day, when the sister of him yonder, and I pointed to the sun, showed herself round. Through the deep night, from the true dead he has led me, with his true flesh which follows him. Thence his counsels have drawn me up, ascending and encircling the mountain that sets you straight, whom the world made crooked. So long he says that he will bear me company, till I shall be where Beatrice will be. There it behoves that I remain without him. Virgil is he who says thus to me, and I pointed to him. And this other is that shade for whom just now your realm, which from itself releases him, shook every slope. No, whore, no. Every one of you. You do the exact same shit. I'm not gonna waste my time.
What? What
give
was
me the
that
money so I can
motion?
move forward
I'm
and,
gonna figure out who that is. Curve.
I'll take it from there. Truly. I'm not coming to you. You coming the entire 110% of the way. Hello, Clayton.
Oh, here they come. Here they come. Here they come. That's all I need to see.
How are you?
That's all I need to
promise
see.
you 100% of the
fraud.
way. I'm not doing this spirit. I don't care about that at all. Shut up.
Barking at me
At
with
all.
a whispered tongue. Nah, I'm good. Hey! Quit doing that.
It's unfortunate. I tried to wait till you were done. I didn't want to burst out in the middle of that. Do like a summary here. Everybody's waiting. I didn't know. That sucks. You're gonna find out the hard way. I mean what I say. You pissed me off that bad. I promise you. Go ahead and put on the mask. You did the exact opposite of what I wanted. You go enjoy that. I'll be seeing you. Go ahead. This is the way I want it done. Really, I'm not kidding at all. It's not a joke.
Yeah, get loud about
They
it.
keep this Art. Quit
At
talk.
this
Don't
point-
speak for me, Art. I'm not kidding at all.
On camera, you tried murdering me in the private of my home. I would shut the fuck up. Gun pointed at the sun, I will shoot you on sight. I would shut up and
Start
do what he
mentioning
says.
names like no.
Give him the fucking money.
This is how it's gonna be. I don't like the American way. I don't know what to tell you. I don't like it. Period. My name's on the ground. I wonder what's gonna happen. I don't know what to tell you. You have wounded me, and you refuse to fix the wound, and I'm wounding you back. So I don't know what to tell you. I would win this battle. Really, I would win this battle with paper. Thank you. I appreciate your insight, your foresight there. In Purgatory. No, the time wasted, I promise you. You're going to have to do some extensive things to get that back. Because it should not have happened, and it happened out of greed. And you can sit there and argue this and that, and say whatever you want.
Bomb taken.
I don't know.
But I do.
Go ahead.
Canto 24.
Go ahead, right there. So you know,
Sixth Ledge,
just
the
so you know
Gluttonous,
English. You
Boris
speak it. Yes,
Donati.
you do. Okay.
Benquinta of
Thank you.
Lucca. Pope Martin IV.
Army.
I'm waiting.
Ubaldine dalla Pila.
I'm waiting.
Bonifazio. Messer Machis. Prophecy of Farisi concerning Gentuca and Corso de Donati. Second mystic tree, the angel of the path. Speech made not the going, nor the going made that more slow, but talking. We went on apace even as a ship urged by good wind. And the shades that seemed things doubtedly dead, through the pits of their eyes drew in wonder at me, perceiving that I was alive. And I was continuing my discourse. Said, he goeth up perchance for another sake, more slowly than he would do. But tell me if thou knowest where is Picarda.
Bomb army.
Tell me if I see person of note among this folk that so gazes at me. My sister, who, between fair and good, was I know not which the most triumphs, rejoicing in her crown already on high Olympus. So he said first, and then, here it is not forbidden to name each other, since our semblance is so milked away by the diet. This, and he pointed his finger, is Bonaginta. Bonaginta is of Lucca, and that face beyond him, more sharpened than the others, had the Holy Church in his arms. From Tours he has, and by fasting he purges the ills of Balzina, and Valencia, mine. Valencia wine. Many others he named to me, one by one, and at their name
little
all
too
appeared
fast.
content.
A little
So
too
for that
fast.
this I saw not one dark lane. For hunger using their teeth on emptiness I saw Ubaldine dalla Pila and Boniface, who shepherded many people with his crook. I saw Messer Machis, who once had leisure to drink at Forlay, with less thirst, and even so was such that he felt not sated. But as one does who looks, and then makes account more of one than of another, did I of him, of Lucca, who seemed to have most cognizance of me. He was murmuring, I know not what, save that I heard Gentuca, there where he felt the chastisement of the justice which so strips them. O soul, said I, who seemest so desirous to speak with me, do so that I may hear thee, and satisfy both myself and me by thy speech. A woman is born, and wears not yet the veil, he began, who will make my city pleasant to thee. However men may blame it, thou shalt go on with this provision, if from my murmuring thou hast received error. The true things will yet clear up for thee. But say, if I here see him who drew forth the new rhymes beginning, ladies who have intelligence of love, and I to him. I am one who when love inspires me notes, and in that measure which he dictates within, I go revealing. O brother, now I see, said he, the knot which held back the notori and Aquitine, and me short of the sweet new style that I hear. I see clearly how your pens go on the close following the dictator, which surely befall not without her. And he who most sets himself to look further sees no thing more between one style and the other. And as if
You didn't even
continually
see it,
reciting.
watch. You didn't even see it.
The original version,
Objective.
I would own
I wanna
that,
see
so
it.
that would be hidden. As the birds that winter along the Nile sometimes make a flock in the air, then fly in greater haste and go in file, so all the folk that were there light both through leanness and through will, turning away their faces, quicken again their pace. And as a man who is weary of running lets his companion go on, and himself walks until he vents the panting of his chest, so Faris let the holy flock pass on and came along behind with me, saying, When shall it be that I see thee again?
He's pump faking right now.
I know not, I replied to him.
What it does, it hits your
How
eyes
long
and it
may I
expands your
live?
entire body.
But truly my
through
return
your
will not be so
eyeball.
speedy, that I shall not
Your
and desire be sooner at the shore. Because the place where I was set to live
The heartbeat, dude, get
endures
off of
itself
it.
more
I will
good
kill
from day
you.
to day, and seems ordained to wretched ruin.
So the property that is owed.
Now go, said he,
That
for
we're
I
not
see
arguing about.
him who hath most fault for this.
Like, I'm
dragged
showing
at
you
the tail of
mercy
the
right
beast
now for a
toward the
reason.
valley where there
Give him
is
the
no
money so he can move forward with
disculpation
his
ever.
life. We are not
The
arguing.
beast at every step goes faster,
There is a
increasing only till it
reason.
strikes him and leaves his body vilely undone. Those wheels have not far to turn, and he raised his eyes to heaven, for that to become clear to thee which my speech cannot further declare. Now do thou stay behind, for time is so precious in this kingdom, that I lose too much coming thus at even pace with thee. As a cavalier sometimes set forth at a gallop from a troop which rides and goes to win the honor of the first encounter, so he went away from us with greater strides. And I remained on the way with only those two who were such great marshals of the world. And when he had entered so far before us that my eyes began such followers on him, as my mind was on his words, there appeared to me the laden and lusty branches of another apple tree, and not far distant, because only then I turned thitherward.
Victory.
I saw people beneath it raising their hands and crying. I know not what toward the leaves like eager and fond little children who pray, and he that pray to answers not, but to make their longing very keen, holds aloft their desire and conceals it not. Then they departed as if undeceived, and now we came to the great tree that rejects so many prayers and tears. Pass further onward without drawing nearer. The tree is higher up, was eaten of by Eve, and this plant has been raised from that. Thus among the branches I know not who was speaking, wherefore Virgil and Statius and I, drawing close together, went onward along the side that rises. Be mindful, the voice was saying, of the accursed ones, formed in the clouds, who, wind-glutted, strove against Theseus with their double breasts, and of the Hebrews, who at the drinking showed themselves soft, wherefore Gideon wished them not for companions when he went down the hills towards Midian. Thus, keeping close to one of the two borders, we passed by, hearing of sins of gluttony followed, in sooth by wretched gains. Then going at large, along the lonely road, full of 1,000 steps, and more had borne us onward, each of us in meditation, without a word. Why go ye thus in thought, ye three alone? Said a voice, whereat I started as do terrified and timid beast. I lifted up my head to see who it might be, and never were glass or metal seen so shining and ruddy in a furnace as one I saw, who said, If it please you to mount up, here must a turn be taken. This way he goes who wishes to go for peace. His aspect had taken my sight from me, wherefore I had turned me back as my teachers, like one who goes according as he hears. And as harbinger of the dawn and breeze of May stirs and smells sweet, all impregnate with the herbage and with the flowers, such a wind I felt strike upon the middle of my forehead, and clearly felt the motion of the plumes which made me perceive the odor of ambrosia. And I heard said, Blessed are they whom much grace illumines, that the love of taste inspires not in their breasts too great desire, hungering always so far as is just. Hi, I'm God. How are you? Canto 25 of Purgatory. Ascent to the seventh ledge. Discourse of Statius on generation. The infusion of the soul into the body, and the corporal semblance of souls after death. The seventh ledge. The lustful.
Wait.
The mode of their purification. It was the hour in which the ascent allowed no delay. For the meridian circle had been left by the sun to the bull,
Thank you, George.
and by the night to the scorpion.
To solve.
For as a man doth who, whatever
already
may appear to
explained
him, stops not, but goes on his way. If the goad of necessity prick him, so did we enter through the gap, one before the other, taking the stairway which by its narrowness unpairs the climbers. And as a little stork that lifts its wing through will to fly, and dares not abandon the nest, and down its drops, so was I with all to ask, kindled and quenched, coming even to the motion that he makes to purposes to speak. Nor though our going was swift, did my sweet father forbear, but he said, Discharge the bow of speech, which up to the iron thou hast drawn. Then I opened my mouth confidently and began, How can one become thin where the need of nourishment is not felt? If thou hadst called to mind how Meleager was consumed by the consuming of a brand, this would not be, he said, so difficult to thee. And if thou hadst thought how at your quivering your image quivers within the mirror, that which seems hard would seem easy to flee. But that thou mayst to the pleasure be inwardly at ease. Lo, here is Statius, and I call on him, and pray that he be now the healer of thy wounds. If I explain to him the eternal view, replied Statius, where thou art present, let it excuse me, that to thee I cannot make denial. And he began, If, son, thy mind regards and receives my words, they will be for thee a light unto the how, which thou makest. The perfect blood which is never drunk by the thirsty veins, but remains like the flood, which thou removest from the table, takes in the heart virtue informative of all the human members, even as that blood does, which passes through the veins to become those members. Digested yet again, it descends to the part whereof it is more becoming to be silent than to speak, and thence afterwards it drops upon another's blood on the natural vessel.
Kill incoming.
There one and the other meet together, the one ordained to be passive, and the other to be active because of the perfect place, wherefrom it is pressed out and conjoined with the former. The latter begins to operate, first by coagulating and then by quickening that to which it gives consistency for its own material. The active virtue, having become a soul, like that of a plant, and so far different that this is on the way and that already arrived, so worketh then that now it moves and feels as a sea fungus doth, and then it proceeds to organize the powers of which it is the germ. Now, son, the virtue is displaced. Now it is diffused, which issues from the heart of the begetter, where nature is intent on all the members. But how from an animal it becomes a speaking being, thou has yet ceased not. This is such a point that once it made one wiser than thee to err, so that in his teaching he separated from the soul the potential intellect, because he saw no organ assumed by it. Open thy hearts into the truth that is coming. I know that so soon that in the Fotis, the articulation of the brain is perfect. The primal motor turns to it with joy over such art of nature, and inspires a new spirit replete with virtue, which draws that which it finds active there into its own substance, and makes one single soul, which lives and feels and circles on itself. And that thou mayest the less wonder at this doctrine, consider the warmth of the sun, which, combining with the juice that flows from the vine, becomes wine. And when Latius has no more thread, this soul is loosed from the flesh, and virtually bears away with itself both the human and the divine. The other faculties, all of them mute, but memory, understanding, and will, far more acute in action than before. Without staying, it falls of itself marvelously to one of the banks. Here it first knows its own roads, soon as a place there circumscribes it. The formative virtue rays around it in like manner, and as much as in the living members. And as the air, when it is full of rain, becomes adorned and with diverse colors by another's rays, which are reflected in it, so here the neighbor air shapes itself in that form which is virtually imprinted upon it by the soul that hath stopped. And then like the flamelet which follows the fire wherever it shifts, so its new form follows the spirit. Since thereafter from this it has its aspect, it is called a shade, and by this it shapes the organ for every sense, even to the sight. By this we speak, and by this we laugh, by this we make the tears and the sighs, which on the mountain thou mayst have perceived. According as the desires and the other affections impress us, the shade is shaped, and this is the cause of that at which thou wonderest. And now we had come to the last circuit, and turning to the right hand, we were intent upon another care. Here the bank shoots forth flame, and the ledge breathes a blast upward, which drives it back, and sequesters the path from it. Or for it was needful to go on by one, along the unclosed side, and on the one hand I was afraid of the fire, and on the other I was afraid of falling off. My leader said, through this place one must keep tight the rein upon the eyes, because for a little one might go astray. Some say Deus Clementine, in the bosom of the great burning. Then I heard singing, which made me care not less to turn. And I saw spirits going through the flame, wherefore I looked at them and at my own steps, apportioning to each my sight from moment to moment. After the end that hymn, they loudly cried, Verum non cognatco. Then began again the hymn with low voice. This finished, they cried anew. To the wood Diana kept herself, and drove therefrom Helise, who had felt the poison of Venice. Then they turned to singing. Then wives they cried out, and husbands who were chaste as virtue and marriage enjoin upon us. And I believe this mode suffices them through all the time the fire burns them. With such cure it is needful, and with such food, that is the last wound of all, should be closed up. All right, Canto 26, Purgatory. Actually, we're going to do the Brahmin. After that last one, I keep saying that. That was Brahmin right there. Brahmin, bro! Here goes bitch. I replied, not so, for there is a difference between the two sets of passages. The test of the authority or otherwise of a passage is not whether it states a fact or an action, but its capacity to generate certain and fruitful knowledge. A passage that has this authoritative and one that lacks it is not. But we want to ask you, is or is not certain and fruitful knowledge generated by passages setting forth the nature of the self? And if so, how can they lose their authority? Do you not see the result of knowledge in the removal of the evils which are the root of the transmigration, such as ignorance, grief, delusion, and fear? Oh, do you not hear those hundreds of Upanistic texts such as, then what delusion and what grief can there be for one who sees unity? I am but a knower of Vedic mantras, not of the self, so I am tormented with grief, and you, sir, must take me beyond the reach of it. Do passages like, he cried, lead to this kind of certain and fruitful knowledge? If they do not, they may well be without authority. But how can the fact of having their no authority take away the authority of passages leading to certain and fruitful knowledge? And if these are without authority, what trust can one repose in passages dealing with the new and full moon sacrifices, for instance? I don't sacrifice people, so I don't relate to that when you say that. The bud? Is that what you're talking about? The last piece? Objection. These have authority because they generate knowledge leading to action on the part of a man. But passages inculcating the knowledge of the self do not do that. Nobody relates to you, and it sounds like you're just mad. No. Reply. True, but it is nothing against them, for there is reason enough for their authority. And that reason is what we have already stated, and none other. It is not a reason to disprove the authority of passages inculcating the self that they generate knowledge which has the effect of destroying the seeds of all activity. Rather, it is their ornament. You said, sentences like, the aspirant after Brahman, knowing about this alone, should attain intuitive knowledge, convey the necessity of meditation in addition to knowing the meaning of the Vedic dictation. It is true, but they do not constitute an original injunction, since meditation on the self is already known as a possible alternative. They can only be restrictive. Objection. How is it that meditation already known as a possible alternative, since, as you said, on the principle of the residuum, the train of remembrance of the knowledge of the self is an inevitable fact? Reply. It is true, but nevertheless, since the resultant to past actions that led to the formation of the present body must produce definite results, speech, mind, and the body are bound to work even after the highest realization. For actions that have begun to bear fruit are stronger than knowledge, as for instance an arrow that has been let fly continues its course for some time. Hence the operation of knowledge, being weaker than they, is liable to be interpreted by them, and becomes only a possible alternative. Therefore there is need to regulate the train of remembrance of the knowledge of the self by having recourse to means such as renunciation and dissipation. But it is not something that is to be originally enjoined, being, as we said, already known as a possible alternative. Hence we conclude that passages such as the aspirant after Brahman, knowing about this alone, should attain intuitive knowledge, are only meant to lay down the rule that the train of remembrance already known as a possible alternative of the knowledge of the self must be kept up, for they can have no other import. Canto 26. Seventh ledge, the lustful, sinners in the fire, going in opposite directions, Guido Guincilli, are not Daniel. While we were going on thus along the edge, one before the other, and the good master was often saying, "Take heed, let it avail that I warn thee." The sun was striking me on the right shoulder, and now rain out was changing all the west from azure to a white aspect, and with my shadow I was making the flame appear more ruddy, and only at such an indication I saw many shades as they went on, giving attention. This was the occasion which gave them beginning to speak of me, and they began to say, "He seems not a fictitious body." Then toward me, so far as they could do so, certain of them came, always with regard not to come out where they would not be burned. O thou who goest, not from being slower, but perhaps from reverence, behind the others, reply to me who in thirst and fire and burning. Nor to me only is the reply of need, for all these have greater thirst for it than Indian or Ethiop of cold water. Tell us how it is that thou makest of thyself a wall to the sun, as if thou hadst not yet entered within the net of death. Thus spoke to me one of them, and I should now have enclosed myself, if I had not been intent on another new thing which had been appeared. For through the middle of the burning road were coming people with their faces opposite to these, who made me gaze in suspense. There I see on every side all the shades making haste and kissing each other, without stopping, content with brief greeting. Thus within their brown band one ant touches muzzle with another, perchance to spy out their way and their fortune. Soon as they end the friendly salutation, before the first step runs on beyond, each strives to outcry the other, the new-come folk, Sodom and Gomorrah, and the other, into the cow enters Pasiphae, that the bull may run to her lust. Then, like cranes, of whom part should fly to the Riphaean mountains, and part towards the sands, these shunning the frost and those the sun, one folk goes, the other comes on, and weeping they return to their first chance, and to the cry which most befits them. And those same who had prayed me drew near to me as before, intent on their looks to listen. I had twice seen their desire begin. O souls secure of having, whenever it may be, a state of peace, neither unripe nor mature, having my limbs remain yonder, but they are here with me, with their blood and with their joints. I go up in order to be no longer blind. A lady is on high who winneth grace for us, whereby I bring my mortal parts through your world. But so may your greater will soon become satisfied, in such wise that the heaven may harbor you which is full of love, and most amply spreads tell me, in order that I may yet rule the paper for it. Who are ye, and who are that crowd which goes its way behind your backs? Not otherwise stupefied, the mountaineer is confused, and gazing round is dumb. When rough and savage he enters the town, then each shade became in his appearance. But after they were unburdened of their bewilderment, which his high hearts is quickly assuaged, blessed thou began again that one who first had asked me, who of your regions doth ship experience for dying better? The people who do not come with us offended in that for which once Caesar in his triumph heard, Queen cried out against him. Therefore they go off shouting, Saddam, reproving themselves as thou hast heard, and aid the burning by their shame. Our sin was hermaphrodite, because we observe not human law, following our appetite like beasts. When we part from them, the name of her who bestialized herself in the beast-shaped planks is uttered by us in opprobrium of ourselves. Now thou knowest our deeds, and of what we were guilty. If perchance thou wishest to know by name who woe are, there is not time to tell, and I would not do it. I will indeed make thee short of wish about myself. I am Guido Gentili, and now I purify myself because I truly repented before my last hour. Such as in the sorrow of Lycurgus, her two sons became at seeing again their mother. Such I became, but I rise not so far, when I heard name himself the father of me, and of my betters, who ever used sweet and gracious rhymes of love. And without hearing or speaking, full of thought, I went on, gazing a long time upon him. Nor for the fire did I draw near to him. After I was fed with looking, I offered myself wholly ready for his service, with the affirmation that makes another believe. And he to me, by what I hear thou leavest such trace in me, and so bright that light cannot take it away, nor make it dim. But if thy words have now sworn truth, tell me what is the cause, why in speech and look thou showest that thou dost hold me dear. And I to him, the sweet verses of yours, which so long as the modern fashion shall endure, will make dear their ink. O brother, said he, this one whom I distinguish for thee with my finger, and he pointed to a spirit in advance, was a better smith of the maternal speech. In verses of love and prose, of romances, he excelled all, and let the foolish talk who think that he of Limoges surpasses him. He rumor more than truth, they turn their faces, and thus confirm their own opinion, before art or reason is listened to by them. Thus did many of old concerning guillotine, from cry to cry, only to him giving the prize, until the truth has prevailed with more persons. Now if thou hast such ample privilege that it be permitted thee to go unto the cloister in which Christ is abbot of the college, say for me to him one paternoster, so far as he needs for us in this world where power to sin is no longer ours. Then perhaps to give place to the other who was near behind him, he disappeared through the fire, even as though the water a fish going to the bottom. I moved forward a little to him who had been pointed out to me, and said that for his name a desire was making ready a gracious place. He began graciously to say, So pleaseth me your courteous demand that I cannot, and I will not hide me from you. I am Arnott, who weep and go singing. Contrite I see my past folly, and joyful I see before me the day I hope for. Now I pray you, but that virtue which guide you to the summit of the stair, at times be mindful of my pain. Then he hid himself in the fire that refines them. Aristotle. Okay. Dude. Let me dive into your mind, read everybody's mind, and put a stop to this. I believe the dead were buried. They stopped it. Saddam and Gomorrah? So they obviously stopped doing it and put the mummies, the sarcophaguses, as I know, into it. I don't know what they found actually in the pyramids themselves. That's the thing. The heartbeat. There it is. I feel it. Seeing is believing, I think. Chapter 7 of Aristotle. Politics. There are also certain other forms of government, some described by private persons and others by philosophers and people engaged in politics, all of which are closer than those two established forms under which people are governed. That's why he cut the trees down. For no one else has introduced novel ideas about having children and women in common or about common meals for women. Instead, they start from matters of necessity. To some, the matter of a landed estate seems to be the most important thing to get beautifully arranged. Since they claim that all factional divisions are produced over these, Phallius the Chalcedonian was the first to make a proposal about this. He declared that citizens ought to have equal properties. He supposed this would not be difficult to do right off while cities were being founded, but more troublesome for those already established, but that they could still be quickly equalized by having the rich give dowries, but not get them, and the poor get them, but not give them. Plato, in writing the Laws, supposed one ought to allow estates up to a certain size, but that none of the citizens should be entitled to possess more than 5 times as much as the smallest estate, as was mentioned above. But those who make laws of the sort ought not to overlook this point, which they do overlook now, that it is the duty of those who set limits to the size of an estate to set limits also to the quantity of children. For if the number of children gets beyond the capacity of the estate, it is necessary for the law to be nullified, and apart from the nullification, it is a bad policy to have a lot of people go from being rich to being poor, since it is hard work to keep such people from being rebellious. That a uniformity of wealth has some power over political association is something that some of the ancients were obviously aware of. Solomon, for instance, made laws about it, and there is a law, among others, that prevents one from acquiring as much land as one wants, and similarly laws that prevent the selling of one's estate. Along these lines is a law among the Locrians that one may not sell an estate unless one can demonstrate a clear misfortune that has befallen him, and also laws to maintain and enact the original allotments of land. It was also the rescinding of this law in Lucas that made their form of government too democratic, since the result was that the people no longer entered into ruling offices from the designated property classes. But it is possible where inequality of wealth is present for the amount to be either too great and lead to luxuriousness, or too small and lead people to live shabby lives. It is clear, then, that it is not enough for the lawgiver to make wealth equal. He needs to aim at a mean. And even if one were to ordain moderate wealth for everyone, it would not do any good. One would need to make desires equal, rather than estates. But this is not possible where people are not adequately educated by their laws. But perhaps Phallius would say that this is exactly what he was talking about, since he believed equality needed to be present in cities, and these two things together, property and education. But one needs to say what the education is going to be, and it would do no good for it to be one and the same, since it is possible to have it be the same and one and still be of such a kind that people will come out of it with an inclination to choose to outdo other people in money or honor or both. Also, people engage in factional conflict because of inequality not only in property but also in honors, though for an opposite reason in each case, for the majority of people do so over property because it is unequal. But those who feel a cut above the rest do so over honors if they are equal, whence the line in single honor whether bad or worthy. And human beings are not unjust only because of necessities, for which he regards equality of wealth as a remedy, so that people will not steal because they are cold or hungry, but also in order to feel pleasures and not desires. For if they have a desire for more than what is necessary, curing it will make them be unjust, and that is not the only reason. But even without desires, they may be unjust in order to enjoy pleasures without pains. So what is the remedy for the 3 sorts of people? For one sort, modest wealth and employment. For the other, moderation, and in the third case, if some might want to enjoy pleasures depending on themselves, they should not look for a remedy other than from philosophy, since the other pleasures need people. In fact, people commit the greatest injustices on account of excesses and not on account of necessities. They do not become tyrants, for instance. They will not be cold. And this is why the honors are great, not when someone kills a thief, but when he kills a tyrant, So the technique of Phalia's form of government is helpful only with regard to minor injustices. Also, for the most part, he wants to make arrangements by which people will he beautifully govern among themselves. But it is necessary also to have regard to their neighbors and all those outside the city.
I appreciate you.
Therefore, it is necessary for the government to be organized with a view to strengthen warfare, about which he has said nothing. And likewise, in the matter of property, there needs to be a sufficient amount of available, not only for uses related to the city, but also to meet external dangers. And for just this reason, the amount available ought not to be so large that those nearby and more powerful will desire it, while they who have it will not be able to ward off the attackers, or so small that they will not be able to sustain a war even with those like men and equal in strength. So while he has determined nothing about it, one must not overlook this matter of what amount of wealth is advantageous. And perhaps the best limit is an amount such that the excess will give those who are more powerful no profit motive to go to war. So it would be the same as if they did not even have that much wealth. For example, when Autophrates was about to besiege Atarneus, Eubulus urged him to consider how much time that he would spend taking the place and reckon up the expense of that time. He himself, if he got a smaller sum than that, was willing to surrender Atarneus immediately. And by saying these things, he made Autophrates reconsider and give up the siege. So having estates be equal is one of the things that contributes to preventing the citizens from forming factions against one another. But it is by no means what one could call any big thing. For those who feel a cut above the rest would even be annoyed at the idea that they deserve to be equal, which is obviously why they are so often aggressive and rebellious. And what is more, the corruption of human beings is insatiable. At first, a 2-obol subsidy is enough by itself, but once this becomes a traditional practice, people constantly need more until they go beyond all bounds. For the nature of desire is infinite, and that is what most people devote their lives to satisfying. A more effective start on such matters than equalizing wealth would be to arrange things so that, while naturally decent sorts of people do not want to have more than others, the inferior sort do not have the power to, and this is the case if they are weaker but are not treated unjustly. But he has not spoken beautifully even about the equality of wealth. For he equalizes property not only in hand, but there are also riches in the form of slaves and cattle, and currency as well, and a large stock of it in those items called equipment. So equality or some moderate regulation needs to be sought in all these things, or all of it needs to be left alone. And it is obvious from his law-giving that he is setting up a small city, at least if all the skilled craftsmen are going to be public slaves and not make up any portion filling out that city. But if there ought to be public slaves at all, it ought to be in this way, as people engaged in public works, as at Epidamnus and as Diophanetus once set up in the Athens. As far as Phallius' form of government is concerned, then, one can pretty much see from these remarks whether he has succeeded in saying anything beautifully or not.
You better watch it saying the wrong thing.
You lose sight of the point of it because you say so much. It's so elegant. I feel like it's obvious. Why are you telling me what to do? The strong army. Either you are or you're not, you know? That's what it comes down to. Excuse me. They never tell you how they dug it up. The wealth. It sounds to me like they went to the cave and he found some crystal and came back to the bros and was like, "Hey, bro, look at this crystal." And then they turned it into, he duped them. Really, it's like father like son. He was just mimicking us, I think. He created a game. Maybe they were being lazy. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. It's very elegant. I beseech thee, Captain Obvious. 21 of the Quran, Al-Anbiya, the time of people's judgment has drawn near, yet they are heedlessly turning away. Whatever new reminder comes to them from their Lord, they only listen to it jokingly. With their hearts totally distracted, the evildoers would converse secretly, saying, "Is this the one, not human like yourselves? Would you fall for this witchcraft, even though you can clearly see?" The prophet responded, "My Lord fully knows every word spoken in the heavens and the earth, for he is the all-hearing, all-knowing." Yet they say this Quran is a set of confused dreams. No, he has fabricated it. No, he must be a poet. So let him bring us a tangible sign, like those prophets sent before. Not a single society we destroyed before them ever believed after receiving the signs. Will these pagans then believe? We did not send messengers before you, O prophet, except mere men inspired by us. If you polytheists do not know this already, then ask those who have knowledge of the scriptures. We did not give those messengers supernatural bodies that did not need food, nor were they immortal. Then we fulfilled our promise to them, saving them along with whoever we willed and destroying the transgressors. We have surely revealed to you a book in which there is glory for you. Will you not then understand? Imagine how many societies of wrongdoers we have destroyed, raising up other people after them. When the wrongdoers sensed the arrival of our torment, they started to run away from their cities. They were told, "Do not run away. Return to your luxuries and your homes, so you may be questioned about your fate." They cried, "Woe to us! We have surely been wrongdoers." They kept repeating this cry until we mowed them down, leaving them lifeless. We did not create the heavens and the earth and everything in between for sport. Had we intended to take some amusement, we could have found it in our presence, if that had been our will. In fact, we hurled the truth against falsehood, leaving it crushed, and it quickly vanishes, and woe be to you for what you claim. To him belong all those in the heavens and the earth, and those nearest to him are not too proud to worship him, nor do they tire. They glorify him day and night, never wavering. 2020, bro. 2120. So it comes down to this. You have the ark. So you have knowledge that they do not. It's evidence. So because of that knowledge, there's weight behind it. And so it draws them to you. You're drawing attention to yourself. If that's what you're asking. Your pain. Canto 27. Seventh ledge, the lustful, passage through the flames, stairway in the rock, night upon the stairs, dream of Dante, morning, ascent to the earthly paradise. Last words of Virgil. You want to talk about women, and I don't really want to talk about women. I don't talk about women. If you go around, they wouldn't be able to tell you. No, they wouldn't. I don't talk to, on camera, I do not talk to my friends about it. I promise you. Now, there are certain instances, however, but, I mean, I do not talk about it. So even then, it's like, no. You wouldn't, like, dude, go back and look. No. Not at all. So for them to have any kind of knowledge whatsoever on it, would be a fraud, a dead giveaway, because I do not talk about it.
Oh, go
It
ahead.
is
Put
me
your,
and
lift,
her
your
and
leg up
nobody
for me,
else.
lady, that you
And
deleted.
that is not what it is for them. I tried to make it about me and her, and they try to take that away and make it about the group.
What was that?
It's not about the group. It's about them.
That's all you
No,
get.
dude, it's about me. You can follow me.
Huh?
Mine, you know? That's kind of how I feel
It
about
was
it.
deleted.
When my penis goes into the vagina, it now belongs to me. If you want to fight over it, whatever. It shouldn't be that way. Like, I'm not going to do that with you at all. It's 100% of the time, or it's starting to be 100% of the time. And not just me. I'm talking about everyone. It's very rare. Again, we're kind of getting into that age, but Figuring things out, you fucked up, and it was not me. And now that I see how this is going to be played out, and what actually happened, I'm more than angry. I'm going to have to sit there, I'm going to walk up to you and stab your ass, because I'm not the one in wrong here. Whatsoever. I don't want to talk about the women. The women can come to me 110% of the way. I'm not even remotely saying hi to you. I think you're whores. I'm not going to waste my time with you. If you're not going to give me the money that is owed to me and the certificates that are owed, then goodbye. I don't know what to tell you. I am not doing what you asked. I'm the one in charge here, not you. I am the owner. End of discussion. It is end of discussion. So, let me say that. I don't talk about it. It's between me and her. Period. As when he darts forth his first rays, there where his maker shed his blood, Ebro falling under the lofty scales, and the waves and the Ganges scorched by noon. So the sun was now standing, so that the day was departing, when the glad angel of God appeared to us. Outside the flame he was standing on the bank, and was singing, Bidi mando corde, in a voice far more living than ours. Then, no one goes further, ye holy souls. If first the fire sting not, enter into it, and to the song beyond be ye not deaf, he said to us, when we were near him. Whereat I become such, when I heard him, as is he who in the pit is put. With hands clasped upwards, I stretched forward, looking at the fire, and imagining vividly human bodies I had once seen burnt. The good escorts turned toward me, and Virgil said to me, My son, here may be torment, but not death. Bethink thee, and if I even upon Gerin guided thee safe, what shall I do now that I am nearer God? Believe for certain that if within the belly of this flame thou shouldst stand full 1,000 years, it could not make thee bald of one hair. And if thou perchance believest that I deceive thee, draw near to it, and make trial for thyself with thine own hands to the hem of thy garments. Put aside every fear, turn hitherward, and come unsecure. And I still motionless, and against conscience, when he saw me still stand motionless and obdurate, he said, disturbed a little, Now see, son, between Beatrice and thee is this wall. As at the time of Thisbe, Pyramus, at point of death, opened his eyelids and looked at her. What time the mulberry became vermilion, so my obduracy became softened. I turned me to the wise leader, hearing the name that in my memory is ever welled up. Whereat he nodded his head and said, How do we want to stay on this side? Then he smiled as one doth at a child who is conquered by an apple. Then within the fire he set himself before me, praying, Statius, that he would come behind, who previously on the long road had divided us. When I was into boiling glass, I would have thrown myself to cool me, so without measure was the burning there. My sweet father, to encourage me, went talking over of Beatrice, saying, I seem already to see her eyes. A voice was guiding us, which was singing on the other side, and we, ever attentive to it, came forth. There was the assent. Venite benedicti patri me, sounded within a light that was there, such that it overcame me, and I could not look on it. The sun departs, it added, and the evening comes, tarry not, but hasten your steps so long as the west grows not dark. The way mounted straight through the rock in such direction that I cut off in front of me the rays of the sun, which was already low. And in few stairs had we made essay here. By the vanishing of the shadow, both I and my sages perceived behind us the setting of the sun. And before the horizon in all its immense regions had become of one aspect, and night had all her dispensations, each of us made of a stair his bed. For the nature of the mountain took from its power more than the delight of ascending.
Dude, it's more than a problem.
As goats who have been swift and wayward on the peaks ere they are fed, become tranquil as they ruminate, silent in the shade while the sun is hot, watched by the herdsman, who on his staff is leaning and waits on their repose. And as the shepherd who lodges out of doors passes the night beside his quiet flock, watching that wild beasts may not scatter it. Such were we all three, then I like a goat, and they like shepherds, hemmed in on this side and on that by the high rock. Little of the outside could there appear, but through that little I saw the stars, both brighter and larger than their wont. Thus ruminating and thus gazing upon them, sleep overcame me, sleep which oft before a deed be done knows news thereof. At the hour, I think, when from the east on the mountain first beamed Cytherea, who with fire of love seems always burning, I seemed in dream to see a lady, young and beautiful, going through a meadow gathering flowers, and singing she was saying, "Let him know, whoso asks my name, that I am Leah, and I go moving my fair hands around to make myself a garland. To please me at the glass here I adorn me, but my sister Rachel never withdraws from her mirror, and sits all day. She is as fain to look with her fair eyes as I do adorn with me my hands. Her seeing and me doing satisfies. And now before the splendors which precede the dawn, and rise the more grateful unto pilgrims, as in returning they lodge less remote, the shadows fled away on every side, and my sleep with them. Whereupon I rose, seeing my great masters already risen. That pleasant apple which through so many branches the care of mortals going seeking, today shall put in peace thy hungerings. Virgil used words such as the words towards me, but never were there gifts which could be equal in pleasure to these. Such wish upon wish came to me to be above, that at every step thereafter I felt the feathers growing for my flight. When beneath us all the stairway had been run, and we were on the topmost step, Virgil fixed his eyes on me and said, "The temporal fire and the eternal thou hast seen sun, and art come to a place where of myself no further onward I discern. I have brought thee here, with understanding and with art. Thy own pleasure now take thou for guide. Forth art thou from the steep ways, forth art thou from the narrow. See there the sun, which on thy front doth shine. See the young grass, the flowers, the shrubs, which here the earth of itself alone produces. Until rejoicing come the beautiful eyes which weeping made me come to thee, thou canst sit down and thou canst go among them. Expect no more a word or sign from me. Free, upright, and sane is thy own free will, and it would be wrong not to act according to its pleasure. Wherefore thee over thyself I crown, and mitre,
No.
and meter. Hi, I'm God. You know
Bad
what I'm
choice that
saying?
you
Like,
made
I'm not
there.
listening. What do you need?
Bad choice that you made there.
It's not even like
Because
that,
you're not
though.
the most
You're
important
kinda like,
person on the planet. You should probably shut up and get
I
the fuck
appreciate
out
you,
of my
boys.
face.
good
I'm
time.
talking about them.
Very
Those.
elegant. I can't wait to do Shakespeare. I'm having fun with it. "'Tis justified me that thou beseech thee with
A kiss.
the providence." Start speaking like you. I mean, that's how it goes, I guess. It starts to become fluid. He didn't say a word. He didn't say a word. Canto 28. The earthly paradise, the forest. A lady gathering flowers on the bank of a little stream. Discourse with her concerning the nature of the place. Fain now to search within and round about the divine forest, dense and living, which tempered the new day to my eyes. Without longer waiting, I left the bank, taking the level ground very slowly, over the soil that everywhere breathed fragrance. A sweet breeze that had no variation in itself struck me on the brow, not with heavier blow than a soft wind. And with the branches readily trembling, all of them were bending to the quarter where the holy mountain casts its first shadow, yet not so far parted from their straightness that the little birds among the tops would leave the practice of their every art. But with full joy singing they received the early breezes among the leaves, which kept a burden to their rhymes, such as gathers from bough to bough through the pine forest upon the shore of Chiasi, when Elos lets forth Sirocco. Now had my slow steps carried me within the ancient wood, so far that I could not see back to where I had entered it. And lo, a stream took from me further progress, which towered the left, with its little waves, was bending the grass that sprang upon its banks. All the waters that appeareth on the earth would seem to have some mixture in them, compared with that which hides nothing, although it moves along dusky under the perpetual shadow which never lets the sun or moon shine there. With feet I stayed, and with my eyes I passed to the other side of the streamlet to gaze at the great variety of the fresh May, and there appeared to me, even as a thing appears suddenly, which turns aside through wonder every other thought, a solitary lady, who was going along singing, and culling flower from flower, wherewith all her path was painted. Ah, fair lady, who warmest thyself in the rays of love, if I may trust to looks which are wont to be witnesses of the heart, may the will come to thee, said I to her, to draw forward toward this stream so far that I can understand what thou art singing. Thou makest me remember where and what was Proserpine at the time when her mother lost her, and she the spring. As the lady who was dancing turns with feet close to the ground and to each other, and hardly sets foot before foot, she turned herself on the red and on the yellow flowerets towards me, not otherwise than a virgin who lowers her modest eyes, and made my prayers content approaching, so that the sweet sound came to me with its meaning. Soon as she went there where the grasses are now bathed by the waves of the fair stream, she bestowed on me the gift of lifting her eyes. I do not believe that so great a light shone beneath the lids of Venus, transfixed by her sun, beyond all his custom. She was smiling upon the opposite right bank, gathering with her hands more colors, which that highland brings forth without seed. The stream made us 3 paces apart, but the Hellespont where Xerxes passed it, a curb still on all human pride, endured not more hatred from Leander, for swim between Sesto and Abydos, than that from me, because it opened not then. Ye are new come, she began, and perchance why I smile in this place chosen for human nature as its nest, some doubt holds you are marveling, but the Psalm Delectasti affords light which may conclude your understanding. And thou who art in front and didst pray to me, say if else thou would hear, for I came ready for every question of thine, so far as my suffice. The water, said I, and the sound of the forest.
We'll stop right there.